Solve the inequality. Describe the solution set as an inequality in interval notation and in a graph. So when we look at the problem that we're given to solve, we see that we have the inequality with less than or equal to, and we also see that each side of the inequality is going to take some simplifying before we get into solving mode. We've got x's on both sides of the inequality, so we're going to need to get those together at some point. And so let's just start off by looking to simplify each side of the inequality. So we're going to start off with doing some distribution here. And so we're going to want to distribute that -2 through the parentheses here. Now be real careful on signs on these problems. And because signs can sometimes be tricky, I'm going to just use this red mark to kind of highlight those negative signs because I know that negative signs can sometimes be tricky. So if I just highlight them, I'll be more likely to pay attention to them. So let's go ahead and do that distribution. So -2 times a positive 3x, well, a negative times a positive we know is negative, and 2 times 3x is going to give us 6x. And then the -2 is also going to distribute to the positive 4. So again, a negative times a positive is a negative, and 2 times 4 is 8. Now we want to bring down this inequality sign. We're going to bring that down, remembering that we don't want to put an equal sign here. We want the inequality less than or equals to. On the right side, we have some distribution to do as well. So that -3 is going to be distributed through those parentheses. Remembering when the parentheses ends, the distribution is also going to end. So we have -3 times x. It's going to give us -3x. Now be careful on this next one. We have -3 times -2. So a negative times a negative is a positive, and 3 times 2 is 6. Now this little negative or minus x here at the end, we're just going to go ahead and bring that down. That doesn't get distributed to because it's outside of those parentheses. Now when we look at what we have, we see that the left side is as simplified as it can be. It has a single x term and a constant term. But on the right side, we have two x terms going on. So let's go ahead and combine those. So the left side is still going to stay the same. So we have -6x minus 8. That side doesn't change. It's still less than or equal to. Now we're going to combine this -3x and this minus x. And remember, we can think of that as like being -1, -1 times x. So -3 minus 1 would give us -4x, and then that plus 6 is just going to come along. Okay, so each side is now as simple as it can get. And so now we're going to go ahead and start bringing the x terms together on the left side and the constants to the right side. So remember, we like to have the x on the left side since that's where we want it in our final inequality. So we're going to come in here and we're going to add 4x to both sides to clear that 4x from the right side of the inequality. We want to bring that over here to the left side. So adding 4x to both sides, remember what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side to keep this in balance. Those are going to cancel out. And so -6x plus 4x, watch the signs, is going to give us -2x minus 8. That's going to be less than or equal to, and over here we just have this +6. And because it's positive, we don't have to bring that plus side down with it. Now we're going to move this -8 over to the other side. Because it's -8, we're going to add 8 to the left and add 8 to the right. We see here the -8 and the +8 are going to cancel each other out. That's going to leave us with -2x on the left side, and then less than or equal to, and here we have 14 on this side. So we're almost done now. We almost have the x by itself, but it still has that -2 sitting there in front of it. And so let's get that -2 cleared out. The -2 is holding on by multiplication, so we're going to divide both sides by -2. Now, here's that situation where we're dividing in an inequality by a negative number. We're dividing both sides by a negative. So remember what that means. That means that this inequality is going to change directions. Instead of less than or equal to, when we do that dividing, it's going to become greater than or equal to. Over here, those negative 2's are going to cancel out, just leaving us with the x. And on the right side, 14 divided by negative 2 is going to give us negative 7. So there's our answer as an inequality. We also want to create a graph and also get some interval notation. So let's go ahead and get the graph done first. We're going to have negative 7 on here, and we're also going to have 0. And because it's negative 7, that's going to be to the left of 0. When we go to create our graph, we notice that we have the or equal to part of our inequality. So that means we're going to use the solid dot. And notice that we have greater than or equal to. The greater than points to the right. That means when I think about on my graph, I'm going to be going to the right as well. I go the same direction as the arrow of the inequality points me. Now I'm ready to set up my interval. And so we're going to see how far to the left and how far to the right we go. To the left, we go as far as negative 7. And to the right, notice that this keeps going and going and going forever. So it goes all the way to infinity, if you could ever actually get there. But because we can't actually ever get to infinity, because it's just kind of an idea, it's not really a number, we're going to use the parentheses there. And here the negative 7 is a solution. It is included because of the or equal to part. So that means that we're going to use the square bracket on the left side. So there's our interval notation and our graph. And down here is our answer to the problem in inequality form.